What's up, everybody? Welcome back into Lettermen Row, and welcome to the third week of a game preview. We've already knocked out Notre Dame. We've knocked out Arkansas State, and now we welcome Dave Briggs from the Toledo Blade. Dave, thank you so much for taking the time, and hopefully you can give us a little bit of insight on the Rockets and what they'll bring into the Horseshoe Saturday night.
Thanks, Spencer. Appreciate it, man. Looking forward to it.
So let's just dive right in, man. We're not going to waste anybody's time. This Toledo defense, we talked a little bit before we came on the air. This Toledo defense is not something to scoff at, even for Ohio State, the Big Ten. This Toledo defense is legit. They've got NFL guys. They've got Jamal Hines, who was one of the top, edge rushers in the country last year. What do you see from this Toledo defense that makes it, game against Ohio State?
Yeah, I don't know if anybody's game against Ohio State, but when you look at Toledo, you're thinking action. You're looking back 10, 15 years ago when they're just kind of outgunning people and not really paying too much attention to defense. But it really started to change in 2020 when Coach Jason Candle made two key hires. Vince Karras is the defensive coordinator. He's a guy most people recognize. Larry Karras's son succeeded him in Mount Union and went like 105 or something crazy like that. So that was a big coup to get him to jump to the D1 assistant coaching ranks. And almost immediately, Rockets went from one of the worst defenses in the country to one of the best. They also added Craig Kuligowski, who made his bones at Missouri and Alabama and as one of the top defensive line coaches in the country. So you combine those two guys and a solid staff and then some really good players, and it's a very good defense. You mentioned Jamal Hines, one of the top statistical edge rushers in the country last year. There's Juan Johnson on the defensive line. They return all four starters. You look at, I think Phil Steele had them ranked the 13th or 14th best defensive line in the country, which would have, if you believe that, would have slotted them in at fourth in the Big Ten. So picture that you're facing a middle of the pack Big Ten defense here. So, I do think Ohio, and obviously Ohio State just has so much speed, so much talent. You're not going to be able to shut them down. But if you look at what Ohio State or what Toledo did to Notre Dame last year in their second game of the season last year, their defensive line was so dominant that it almost looked like Ohio State was playing Youngstown State or one of those power conference versus FCS games. It was that crazy the way Toledo controlled the line of scrimmage, and Notre Dame had a pretty good offensive line. So it'll be interesting. I think Toledo will be able to get a little pressure on the quarterback, and it's a dominant front seven, so they could keep it close for a bit. But yeah, it's a good defense.
Well, I won't ask you to make a score prediction just yet, but I do want to stick on that defense a little bit. There's a familiar face there in that linebacker room. Dallas Gant come to Toledo from Ohio State. It seemed like a pretty smooth breakup, if you will, between the Buckeyes and Dallas Gant. A lot of pleasantries exchanged this week between the two sides. Do you feel like he's going to try to have a little bit more of an impact on this game? Do you think that he could see an impact? I know that's just somebody that Ohio State fans are familiar with, so I have to ask about him.
Yeah, no, for sure. And you're right. I mean, it was, Dallas was very gracious this week, says he has nothing bad to say about Ohio State, loved his time there. Obviously just saw a different opportunity here. And yeah, he's been great. One of the things that was interesting is, Toledo's front seven was so good and so deep and returned so many people that he didn't automatically slot in as a starter, but they had some key early injuries and he really impressed during camp. And yeah, you can tell he's kind of a different level of athlete. He's been Toledo's leading tackler in the first two games. Definitely, I believe he was second one as well. I wasn't at the last one, but yeah, he's been a key leader on that defense, a great presence, and yeah. I mean, the defensive line is the strength, but when you can have a guy like Dallas Gant back there, yeah, his coaches love him so far.
So let's flip over to the other side of the ball now. A lot of defensive talk. Ohio State offense versus Toledo defense might be what we want to see. But Toledo's also going to have to play some offense against this new Ohio State defense. Quarterback Dequan Finn, he's back. You got some pieces back. Some are now gone from the program, whether that be in the NFL, on NFL rosters. This is a team that routinely produces NFL level guys. So what is this Toledo offense, I guess? And that's kind of a broad question, but I'll just leave it at that. What is the Toledo offense?
Yeah, it's kind of a mixed bag so far. It was a little bit grinding in the first game against UMass. I think statistically they're about the 63rd, 64th in total offense, which is not a great sign when you've played UMass and Long Island so far. Defense is certainly the strength, but I guess it was a little bit to be expected. You have some moving parts. Toledo's offensive line was a bit of a question mark last year, and then they lose 2 starters in injuries during camp. So I think they only return about 25% of their snaps, and that inconsistency has showed so far. It's kind of reached a point where they had to move one of their defensive tackles over the ball and is really playing a big role at center right now. So that kind of tells you where things are at a little bit. But it can be a dynamic offense. They lose Brian Koback to the NFL. He was their star running back. But DeQuan Finn brings that dual threat. He was in a bit of a quarterback battle last year. It kind of slowed his development. They were going back and forth, and then he kind of took off the second half of the year. So we've been kind of looking for him to take that next step this year. Really improved his throwing, kind of become the complete package. So if they can get that line working and develop more of a running game, this could be a good offense. But I just don't know if, I just don't know if they have the weapons or the experience right now to give Ohio State a real test.
Do you think that is going to be the most apparent part of this offense for Toledo, is the Ohio State defensive line going against maybe a mismatch with that Toledo offensive line?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this isn't the Ohio State defensive line of old necessarily, or even a few years ago, but yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think when you have this level of talent on the Ohio State defensive line, it could be a long night in the. And the good thing for Toledo is they do have a quarterback who can kind of elude that pressure. But I would not expect Toledo to get much of a push or a run game going up front now.
Okay, so that's something to keep in the back of maybe Ohio State fans' minds as they watch this video and go into Saturday night, what to expect. A couple more, and then I'll get you out of here. We don't want to keep you too long, but Jason Candle, been at Toledo, I think this is his 8th year now. Could be 7th.
15, so this is his 7th year. Yep. 7th year, yeah.
So it's been a while now.
Yeah.
How important of a year is this for Jason Candle?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's make or break. I mean, he's had that real good start the first couple of years. Matt Campbell goes to Iowa State. He's promoted from offensive coordinator into the head job, and have 2 really good years to start off with. And, led by Kareem Hunt, who everybody knows. They win the MAC title the second year. And then it's kind of been, again, a mixed bag since then. Let's see, they're 26 and 21 since winning the MAC title in 2017, including the 2 wins this year. And yeah, at a place like Toledo, which invests as much in football as any other school in the MAC, you see Toledo leading the league and recruiting rankings each year. Candle's a very good recruiter. He's put together a good coaching staff. For whatever reason, they just haven't been able to find that consistency for a lot of reasons that you could dive into. But yeah, it's a huge year for him. I mean, I think it'd be fair to say he entered the season squarely on the hot seat. He's in the second to last year of his contract. A new athletic director just came in. I think they're kind of they waiting to evaluate him, and he probably need to get to 8 wins to continue on, for sure. Absolutely.
Do you think, and this might be, scarlet colored glasses from down here in Columbus, you're up in Toledo, so this. Do you think a good showing against Ohio State can help him, even if obviously the result might not be a win? Do you think a good showing against Ohio State would go any sort of lengths for Jason Candle?
Oh, sure. I mean, this is a huge marquee game for Toledo. I mean, I think it's the first network television game in school history, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. But because, you would think over the years you would have played like a 3:30 game on ABC or whatever. But it's the first network TV game in prime time on Fox against, the big boy in the state and the country, really. So, yeah, absolutely. I mean, if they look good, with the country watching, absolutely, it'll help them. It's hard to see the formula to really keep it close late, but sure, absolutely.
So now I'm going to put you on the spot. I've got to do it. I apologize, but I need a score prediction here. You've broken it down a little bit. You like this Toledo defense. We're not sure about the Toledo offense. We know what Ohio State is, maybe. What do you got for us at about 10:30 on Saturday night? What do you think the scoreboard will read?
I don't think I think Toledo has the front seven to get the pressure and maybe wreak a little havoc early to keep it close. So I believe the line's at 30-32 right now. I would probably, I don't think Ohio State's going to cover. I'll say 45-17.
All right, that sounds about right. The people at Lettermen Row know that they don't get my score prediction until Friday. We might even get you in on a little bold prediction on Friday, maybe for the site, if we can. So, but that's about all I've got from the Ohio State side asking you about Toledo. Dave, we love your work at the Toledo Blade. The columns are always awesome. I saw you talk to the Toledo mayor this week. That is great stuff. But thank you for joining us. Thank you for giving us your time. For Dave, I'm Spencer. This is Lettermen Row. We'll see you guys next time.